The Nugent Saga. Norman Collins. Our daughter was living in Baltimore, Maryland. In 1979, as son-in-law Douglas was serving as a youth pastor. One day a parishioner called Sharon. There is a Siamese kitten on the waterfront eating out of garbage cans. He has been here several days and doesn't seem to belong to anyone. Would you like to have him? Sharon, a cat lover, said sure, bring him here. I would like to relate here that Sharon had a Siamese kitten given to her by a pupil when she was teaching school in Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. And when she couldn't take care of it any longer, we inherited it. Her name was Bushki. The kitten was named Nugent from a pig in a James Herriot book. Nugent liked his new home and established his own routine. He liked to sit up high, on top of the refrigerator, or the top of an open door. He did not like any other animals. But he made one exception. A yellow cat, Mortimer, lived across the street and they became fast friends. When grandson Grant was born on January 16, 1979, also Sharon's birthday, Nugent decided the bassinet would be a nice bed for him. He slept with Grant in the bassinet every day. After a time, Sharon and her family came to live with us while Douglas looked for another church. Douglas eventually received a call to a church in Harrisville, PA. They rented a U-Haul truck for the move. Sharon and Douglas were in the truck and Francis, myself and Grant in our van following. I installed a CB radio in each vehicle to keep track of each other. When we neared Oneonta on I-88, Sharon said on the CB, "How is Nugent making out riding?" I said, "I thought he was with you," and she said, "I thought he was with you." So I turned around and raced back home to find Nugent. He was not to be found, but when we called he came running and meowing his usual call. We were soon back on the road and after a while calling on the radio if anyone had seen a U-Haul truck. In Pennsylvania, a trucker said, "We have seen the truck and it's somewhere ahead." We soon caught up with them. We arrived at Harrisville about 2 a.m. in a pouring rain. Nugent liked his new home, a trailer in the country. He had open fields to hunt in. He would hunt for anything that would move. Sometimes he would be away for a couple of days at a time, much to the frustration of the family. One time he did not come back. Sharon called all the neighbors, but he was not to be found. 2 weeks later, a young man from their church was visiting a friend of his that lived about 10 miles away from Nugent's trailer. This young visitor admired the Siamese cat that belonged to his friend. The friend said, "I was hunting over by your church and this cat befriended me and I brought him home." The visitor then said, "He looks like Nugent, our pastor's missing cat." Of course the man was disappointed that this was not a stray cat, and in a few days Nugent showed up at the trailer's door. The hunter just dropped off the cat without any explanation. But we know the rest of the story. After this, when Sharon and family came back to Duanesburg for vacation, they brought Nugent and decided he belonged here on the farm in safety, and so we inherited another cat. Nugent was right at home here. He tolerated Bushki but barely. When he got bored he would chase Bushki around the house with much screeching and howling. Soon the game would be over and he would look for other things to do. He loved to check over all the groceries on arrival and quickly find any bags of cat food and immediately tore into it if not quickly apprehended. We called Nugent the talking cat. He had many voices, each one with a different meaning. From a soft meow to a loud meow. Every time he would walk up the walk to the front door he would talk all the time. If you talked to him he would always answer. One morning Fran was watching him out the front window and he was facing a red fox. Both were growling and Nugent would not turn his back to the fox but stood his ground until Fran shouted and the fox left. We would have Nugent's food bowl out front for his daytime snacks. Many times our neighbor's large German police dog would come down and take Nugent's food. Nugent would watch this time after time, and finally one day he decided he had enough of this. He sprang from the porch on the dog's back, dug in his extra sharp claws, and with the dog howling in pain, Nugent rode bareback up to the turnpike where he jumped off and marched home in triumph. The dog never came back. One day Nugent was missing, and after much calling, and evening was approaching, we heard a thump, pause, thump and more thumps. We rushed upstairs to see what was causing all the noise. In the back bedroom was Nugent pulling books off the bookcase and crashing to the floor to call attention that he had been shut up all day after the bed had been made. He had a long nap. Now he gave a large meow, for it's about time you let Met out. Nugent had many more exciting experiences and eventually he used up all this 9 lives. We often remember our 2 Siamese cats and the joy they brought to us. Norman S. Collins, March 29, 2001.